There's some people waiting on you to transform your life. Your family is waiting on you. You have the information. Now you got to execute, but you got to stop being selfish to become the person that you need to become to have that transformation. Are you going to do it?
Doing numbers, high performance mentality. Take one. I've been practicing.
What's up, y'all? Get ready to break it down and level up. Welcome to Doing Numbers, your number one financial literacy podcast in the world. Clap it up. I'm your host, Olu.
I'm your host, Scott.
So bring your pen and pad because it's about to get real.
That's right.
What's up, Scott?
What up, champ?
How you feeling today, man?
Man, I feel inspired, brother.
You feel inspired?
I feel inspired.
Tell me how.
Man, we got a special guest today.
Yeah.
And I know we ain't going to reveal him yet, but I'm just going to say his portfolio is pretty impressive.
It is, man.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like from the look of it that he's put in a lot of work, man, from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
From scratch.
He didn't skip leg day either.
say this one didn't skip leg day, huh?
Yeah, all the
man.
way around. Solid guy.
Nah, man. So I'm excited too to
him.
bring him on. This was a brother that I actually met at this group meet that we have once a month. It's called Brunch with the Bros, and it's actually one that I would like for you to come to, man, and check it out.
I like brunch.
Yeah, well, it's Brunch with the Bros, but it's not necessarily. Nah. I thought it too, though. I ain't gonna lie. I definitely did. When I first was told about it, I'm like, oh man, that's cool. So it's gonna be brunch style. I'm thinking
You went in there hungry.
You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, so we gonna have pancakes, bacon. I wonder what their brunch menu looks like. Do I gotta pay for it, or is it just gonna be provided?
It's a brunch of the mind, not the stomach.
It's a brunch of the mind, man. Gotcha. And but they do provide food, so I mean, I don't want that to get misconstrued.
Gotcha.
There is food provided, but it's not necessarily brunch style.
Yeah.
It's a little unorthodox as far as what you know of brunch to be. But the purpose of being there is to leave full, man, with a full cup, and to be inspired, to either go out and help or to just really lock in and solidify, yourself before you go out to help. Because we as men, man, there's a lot of moments where we are pretty much on autopilot and we never take a step away from autopilot to have conversation amongst our own people.
Sure.
When it comes to men, like we've had conversation before, man, it's something about the male-to-male interaction where I don't know if it's the testosterone in the room, but
always competition.
It's always competition. One has to supersede the other and
or impress the other one.
Or impress, and it just never gets anywhere at the end of the day.
So lame.
It's lame. It's lame, right? But this event, this group meet that we have, man, is solid because it's the total opposite of all of that. Good. Everybody comes in humble. Everybody comes in, with something that they want to get off their chest, and it's an open space. It's like whatever you want to talk about.
Cool.
And I met this brother here. It's held periodically throughout the month, so they have different dates. Those dates, you have to sign up basically through a text message, and then once you get the text message, they'll put you on the frequent notice of when the events are. So it could be like the first week of whatever month that is, second week, and so forth.
So
it just
like
depends.
Communion. I like that.
Yeah, it is. But this month in April, they're doing something different. I think they're doing like a fit. So it's Brunch with the Bros, but it's not a sit down, like circle meet up type of situation that we typically do. It's going to be a different dynamic. So we'll be in a workout space,
working out.
Because health is wealth.
They invite people with the cooking arms like me?
They encourage people with the cooking arm. Actually, they encourage that. So, nevertheless, man, it's a great space, man. Like I said, to just come, just be open, be vulnerable amongst men. And really get some good tips and gems, man, from those a bit older than you. Even there's some younger cats in there with some game too, man.
I love that.
So that's what it's about.
It's empowering.
It is. It really is. So our guest, man, my man, Keston Glasgow, husband, transformational speaker, certified high performance and mind insurance coach, and real estate investor, knows what it's like to feel stuck in the 9-to-5 job. My type of guy, man.
Yeah.
Once he learned the mindset fundamentals of long-term success, he and his wife were able to go from 1 to 21 doors in 1 year. using creative financing and 100% OPM.
No, none out of pocket, huh?
Real numbers out of other people's pocket.
Yes,
I
sir.
like that.
A real finesse.
They made their first $1 million in revenue after 2 years in business and own $10 million in property within their first 3 years. Man, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
The real estate business changed the trajectory of his life, and he is building a legacy for his family. Beautiful. We was just talking about that.
Where?
He is now on a mission to share these mind insurance fundamentals. I like that, mind insurance. Fundamentals of success with seasoned and aspiring entrepreneurs so they can gain financial and time freedom so they can live on purpose. I love that, man. That's a great introduction and bio. So without further ado, man, I'd like to introduce my man, Keston Glasgow.
Welcome to the show, Keston.
Man, I love the claps. The claps make me feel like I just walked on stage. So I love it, man. Thank you. Thank you.
man.
Thank you for having me.
Galvanize you with the claps.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. So I want to dive right into it. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
No, it's cool, man. So, Keston, you reached your first $1 million in revenue in the first 2 years. Can you perhaps take us back to the beginning, share your key decisions and how you got to your first $1 million in the first 2 years of you doing business?
The short version of that is really, I didn't even know I was hitting it.
Really?
I was just heads down working.
There you go.
And when I looked up, I was like, oh, shoot, babe. It's like, look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Life has changed.
Yeah. It was just, that's kind of me, bro. I'm not money doesn't impress me at all, man. I just work.
Yeah.
I just put my head down. I'm very purpose-based. So once I'm fulfilling my purpose and doing that work, like the money's gonna come and I'm just about serving, man. So
That's great.
like I said, I didn't even know when it happened. It was
so
like,
it was a
oh
surprise to
shit.
both of y'all.
It was. It really was a surprise. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
After we started to do more intentional stuff because, you start out hustling in that kind of way. Then we started kind of making it into a business. And honestly, once we started making it into a business, we dipped a little bit because it was like, now you got to build a team and do like some of that.
Build the infrastructure.
Exactly. But yeah, bro, that's kind of, I didn't even know.
That's amazing. We need to clap it up one more time.
Yeah.
So I made $1 million on accident.
Right.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
But if you can make $1 million, man, you can make $1 billion.
Yes, sir.
And they always say that your first $1 million is the hardest. Can you relate to that? Like
Yeah.
after, is it
So
easier?
it depends, man. Because I think building a team, bro, is not easy. I think building a team is not easy. And the season of life of growing people and going from hustling to your job is now to make sure that they are good and they have everything they need. And it's not just you grinding and doing the work yourself.
Sure.
That transition was really hard and is still a process because of my grind, because of like just how I like things done, finding people that could do it half as good or 3/4 as good as me, it's a challenge.
Yeah, to complement where, not so much where you lack, but to fit the fold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So getting those A players, man, is has been a challenge because when people will come in, they'll interview really well. But
The work ethic don't match.
yeah, man. And I think they think I joke when I say I go hard. They're like, everybody says that kind of thing.
Right.
And they fall short within a few months, man. They're not able to keep up with the standard that I require, and so it's been a little bit of a revolving door to a degree. I got some people who've been with me for over a year. My VA, he's been with me for over 4 years now.
And VA, you mean
virtual assistant. He's in Pakistan.
Okay.
But he's the first one that I've had since I started like my coaching program. But he works really hard. Like I could hit him up right now and be like, yo, bro, I need a funnel tonight. And he's gonna get it done. Wow. Yeah, he's gonna get it done. He does fall off at times. right? And, you know, with AI and all that type of stuff, I'm like, hey, bro, you've been with me for a long time.
Right.
If you don't keep up with this, I'm going to have to let you go. So I got him. But again, as a leader, you got to grow them. You know what I mean? And so it's like I've been giving them resources and things to learn and get better. And so it's, you just kind of move a little bit slower with growing people, bro. So that's kind of like my journey in leadership.
That's a great tidbit.
It is.
A lot of us don't know how to construct a team and what all that comes with.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just thinking of that. Like, you're quick to, you know, reprimand and, you know, tell that employee of yours, like, man, you're not living up to the expectation or the standard. But it's like, as the leader, what standard are you setting?
Yeah.
Like, are you really out there rolling your sleeves up too?
Yeah.
For me, as the employee of you, to be like, you know what? This man is inspiring me to actually step my cookies up.
Yeah.
You know, and do what I need to do. You got a lot of people in position of power that don't necessarily lay out those infrastructures to help develop those employees. Yeah. But then you want these astronomical results. And it's like, bro, but what about looking yourself in the mirror and asking yourself, hey, did I lay out the proper foundation for my guys to have continued education to be able to excel and get to the point where I want them to be, where we just on autopilot and cruising because everybody's clicking on all cylinders?
Yeah. And quite frankly, bro, there ain't no autopilot with me, bro. We always growing.
Yeah.
We always learning, growing, doing something. And I think that's a part of, and my wife and I, we work together. So that's a part of what frustrates her. It's because it's like, bro, chill. And I'm like, why? It's like, we've made it to this point. It's like, what more could we do, man? Because I'll tell you, my biggest fear in life is not fulfilling my purpose. Not fulfilling my purpose and not taking it to the potential that I believe God requires of us. And I need to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, bro. So I just work with that in mind and just keep
that's
trying.
what galvanizes you to keep pressing forward. Did you always have that mentality, or
No.
did you have to grow?
No, I definitely had to grow into that, man. I grew up as a scumbag, bro. Like just straight up scumbag, like how I treated women.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was a taker of the world. I just took from the world, super selfish dude. Didn't really care about anybody else. Very ruthless. Yeah. Very ruthless. Grew up in Trinidad. And so they would call it gangs here, but back there we called it squads, right? So I used to be in a lot of squads and led them. If my name wasn't called on the PA system at least once a week, I wasn't working. You know, my parents was always in school. I was very close to being expelled many times. Yeah. But my mom worked in the Ministry of Education. And so that saved me a bunch, you know? And so when I wanted to transition from that life, I used to be a DJ as well, internationally, played around the world, Spain, Switzerland, like
lived
just
a lot of lives, man.
I did, bro. And so between having that level of I call it hood stardom, and just being able to do whatever you want, get whatever you want, you know, that I just took a lot from the world, man. Sure. And so when I stopped playing music and I decided to really tap in with God on a different level, and while doing that, my parents are pastors, right? Wow. So I was the PK kid, right? Like the real
black sheep.
Yeah. You know, and so once I transitioned and wanted to really explore God for myself. Not the God that my parents serve, but like who's this God? Right. You know? And I started really studying the Bible for myself, bro. I just wanted to give back, and that's where the fear of God really came on me. And not fear in a I'm scared, but reverence. You know? Respect. And respect, and just wanting to do better for humanity. Sure. Yeah.
That's lit, man. And I do want to touch on, because you said, you know, when you found your purpose or you want to live through your purpose, I do want to touch on what that is. But before we go there, man, as we said, man, it's nothing short of amazing how much you've transformed your life. From being in squads to really kind of, trying to figure it out, thinking that you're doing the right thing, but you're not necessarily doing it the way that you should, making those big boy plays that you're making now. It's nothing short of amazing, man. And I want to know if you could just share a bit about how that started. Where did that come from? Where did that beginning transformative moment kick into you? Like, okay, I need to redirect and reshape my life.
Shift, yeah.
Yeah, bro. So it was when I stopped playing music.
Okay.
Yeah, that, like, the type of life I used to live playing music, man, people would die for, right? I would go, I played for, I would call it the comparison. Imagine if Coca-Cola went out of business and 20 years later, some young guys came and revived them and brought them back to life. I used to play for a group, was like an extinct Coca-Cola.
Gotcha.
We revived it, and then we started to just travel the world because everybody was like, oh my God. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so the group that I played for, they were responsible for names that you would know. People like Sean Paul, Wyclef, John, like all those guys, they helped bring them up in their careers. And so I would go to Jamaica, I would go all around the world and meet these artists, Shaggy, like anybody, Shabba Ranks. And, I'll just be with them, hanging out, doing, getting like specials, and we call it dub plates, from them where they're singing about our group and shouting us out and all that type of stuff.
That's amazing.
And so I had a lot of access, Movado, like just around everybody.
Yeah.
And so when I left that, bro, I didn't know who I was, bro. I had an identity crisis where it was just like, who is my life without that? What is it? And so, bro, I went to Egypt for 10 days because I'm like, I don't know who I am. I gotta just figure it out.
Yeah.
And that made me go on such a journey.
Yeah.
It made me go on a journey to just really understand what life was really about. Because when you shift your identity from one thing to the next, where you thought, like, I only seen myself doing things like becoming a DJ Khaled, becoming a, like, that kind of life. That's all I seen for myself. And now that was done. And so it was like this self, just really going deeper on what life was. And that journey led me to, within that journey, I met my wife. Within that journey, had, my daughter now. I have a 14-year-old son.
Congratulations, bro.
Thank you. Well, he's 15. My son, I had him from a previous marriage. But that self-realization really came through real estate, honestly, where I knew what I wanted in terms of I'm discovering my purpose, right? And so I used to call myself Difference Maker Kes. Like, that was my name for many years because I'm like, how do you make a difference?
Gotcha.
And so I'm just going to name myself. And it was a book that I read from John Maxwell. It was called The Difference Maker. And I was out to figure out what being genuine was. I had no idea what it felt like to really care for somebody. Man, I'm talking about even my family, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't even know what it means to care.
Right.
And it wasn't until, bro, I was in like one of these communities, one of my real estate communities, and I started helping other people and coaching them because they were asking like, bro, how are you growing so fast? And and I started just kind of like sharing with them like some of my mindset things that I do. And when I started seeing other people's lives transform, the feeling I got from that was like, whoa, what's this?
Right.
Then I did it again. And then one day somebody was like, bro, I'll pay you because I don't think you understand how good you are at explaining this stuff. And so once that first person paid me, I helped him triple his business. I helped him reconnect with his wife and kids. And the feeling that I got from that, I'm like, nah, this is it.
Yeah.
This
I
like
found my purpose.
I found it.
Yeah.
And so essentially my purpose, bro, is helping other people transform their lives, bro, and become their fullest, help them discover their purpose. Because I think I would say over 95% of people in this world go through life without really understanding why they're here.
Absolutely.
You know?
I agree.
And, you know, I think it was Mark Twain said the two greatest days of your life is the day you were born and the day you find out why. And if you've already aced the first one, let me help you with the second one.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's how it felt for me.
And I think that's a journey that a lot of people don't want to go on, man, because it's like school all over again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least when you were born, I mean, I guess.
School itself.
Yeah, you know, when you were born, you had to shoot your way there. You had a million others, you know, trying to get there too.
Shoot your way
But-
there. It's crazy.
But, you know, now that you're here in the flesh on earth, you're going through a whole nother level of schooling. And that point of like finding out the why am I here? That takes a lot, man. It takes a mind shift. We had Ani on the first episode, and that was our whole topic was about mind shift. And a lot of people don't want to go down that route, man, because it takes a lot of self-reflection. There's a lot of self-evaluation that has to happen when you want to shift that mind to
Look yourself in the mirror.
positivity.
Yeah.
Coming from, you know, maybe a negative situation or just a lack of situation. So for you, you know, I think about the journey that you went on, you know, to Egypt. It seems as if it was a spiritual journey for you that helped you, you know, really redirect and think about what you wanted to do in life. And you found that. So what does, you know, mindset shift mean to you, or mindset fundamentals? What does that mean to you? And, you know, what can you tell someone, our viewers out there, of how they can begin to start shifting their mindset?
Yeah. So I like to break it down really easy, man. And if you think about it like a thermostat, right? You look at the word mindset, two words that we use as one. And what it really means is whatever your mind is set to, right? And so if you look at it like that, without judgment and very objectively, then it becomes very simple to understand. And so if we look at the thermostat, if the thermostat is set to 75 degrees, because that's what's comfortable for you, because most people stay in comfort, right? So they get to this comfortable place of the thermostat. And so they're stuck and set to 75 degrees. But if you want to turn it up in life and you're like, man, I got to change my life, I want to do something else, you got to turn that thermostat up to 95, 100, right? And what that requires is literally just shifting your mindset to something else. And so you're shifting from comfort to, I don't even want to say uncomfortable. The process is uncomfortable, but it's to abundance, to generational wealth, to like whatever that blank is for that person. That's what you're shifting to. And so if you could just think about you setting your mind to a different way of life, which typically mindset is paired with habits. And so you shifting who you are today just requires different habits, different paradigms, right? And I like to define paradigms as habits that's passed down from one generation to the next. And so when we say you're having a paradigm shift, you're really just shifting your behaviors, you're shifting your habits. And once you do that, that habit would give you a different result. And very simple, like that's how I break it down for people to understand and take the vagueness out of it, and it's more practical.
Right.
So coming from and having the, I guess it was safe to say you had a troubled, you know, background or upbringing. Just like, I guess it was, it wasn't a situation that, well, let me ask you, was it something that you were born into? Because it sounds like, you know, you had pastors as parents. So to me, it doesn't sound like you were born into that situation like a lot of our young black men and minority cultures are. They're just born into that situation. But would you say that you know, when you found your first level of success on the beginning level before you got to the millions, and it hit, like you got paid, did you ever think like, damn, bro, is this real? Like, did I really just do something good and I got a good outcome or a good result from it? And then did you like deviate away from it a bit? Cause you was like, yo, this is kind of scary. Like I actually did something legal, got paid for it legally, and it's working.
Yeah.
Versus like, nah, man, this can't be true. Like I ain't gonna be able to get paid again and then go back to doing what you normally did.
Yeah. And I would say that happened in several ways, actually. And to be honest, bro, like my childhood, as the craziness that I've done, my parents, they're still together. They loved me. We had a great home. We had the biggest home in the neighborhood that I lived in. And so it was almost like people would see me being the rich kid over there, and I was still looking for something else.
Right.
And so I was the policeman's son. I was the this, but I would go like at community centers, and they would kind of laugh at me because I was the policeman's son.
Right.
That lived in the big house. Oh, look at him.
Yeah.
And I would try to fit in.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so my journey into doing a lot of that stuff was literally, I want to hang with the homies. You know what I mean?
The good life, the cool things were boring.
Exactly. You know what I mean? But my first job, my first job here, I came here and I started doing construction and handing out flyers and all that type of stuff. My first job on the books when I came to America in New York was I worked for Apple, and I worked my way up to being a behind the bar, Genius Bar, right? After that, I started working for Macy's corporate. I was the tech guy for the CEO of Macy's. Then I moved from there. I started working for a law firm, and that's where I left my 9-to-5. I became a cybersecurity engineer at that law firm. Now, every time I made a up and I got this success, as most people would call it, I would promise God, like, hey, I'm good now, right? But after 6 months, I'm like, they gotta be more.
Right.
They gotta be more.
Yeah.
And that's what actually made me leave my job, because I was super grateful. I was making great six-figure money. Worked on the 34th floor of a building on Wall Street.
Right.
The job that most people want. At night, I would go DJ. So I'm living this double life again, right? So I'm great corporate guy suit during the day, hoodie and hat backwards at night, making money on both sides, having a level of success on both sides, and which was also an easy call card for even a young lady, right? Because she's like, well, you're like the best of both worlds, right? So that's why I said like my life was easy in a sense, because I could play any card that I wanted. To, oh, you like that? I'm that.
Yeah.
You like, I'm that too, right? Driving BMW 535, looking like a M5, like it was just all of those things. And once I got to that point, bro, it was like, they got to be more to life.
Yeah.
Like something's missing, because every time I level up, going from doing construction to being on the 34th floor on Wall Street, playing on one of the biggest groups in the world, and still feeling something missing.
So you had all these external riches, but you felt empty on the inside.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
And I deal with that, man, myself, because Ani spoke about it before, and in our brunch with the bros, he was saying, you know, sometimes he feels unworthy of being in spaces. And when I think about that, it just downloaded right now. You know, I blend pretty well. So basically what you're saying is like your blend game was solid. Like you was able to go here, you can hang with these folks. If it was the top, you know, millionaires, you could blend in with them. You were a chameleon. So when I think about that, because I agree with Ani too, I think the reason why I sometimes have the unworthiness of being in certain spaces is because it's like I hadn't spun too much or put too much time into this side of it, because I've been doing, the bad things or hanging with this group or, this is how I was brought up. When those that are in those big rooms and having those big conversations, that's where they've always been. So I guess and I guess that's what you know what I mean. That's what I'm trying to.
Syndrome setting in.
Yeah,
because you assume those things walking into those rooms.
I assume, and that's the part that I got to break out of because I'm like, because I really do. Like, if you match up my performance against those that are in those rooms, I think the only difference is the experience. They were here longer, but if it comes down to just having the conversation, getting results, I'm there to do that.
Yeah.
And I could do it at a really high level. But again, it's like, are they going to take me serious though?
Yeah.
Because of how I look, or I might, I like to dress casual rather than putting on suits every day.
Yeah.
I can still get business done, but I'm just not that one to just put on the suit all the time.
Yeah.
So
hey, I'll start with this. Jesus Christ is my ultimate example. Right. He's my role model. He's the GOAT to me. And before he started his ministry, before he healed a blind eye, before he raised the dead, before he did anything, he was baptized. Right. And when he was baptized by John the Baptist, when he rose up, a voice from heaven said, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." What that says to me is that you don't need to work to justify your worth.
If you say that to the camera one time for our people, man.
You don't need to work to justify your worth. And that's powerful for me because now I know I don't need to work to be loved by God. I don't need to work to be loved by anybody, to be accepted by anybody. And so when I walk in a room, it's not because of what I did, it's because of who I am and my father, right? It's like, I couldn't care less about my bio. Couldn't care less. It's because of who I am in God that makes me walk the way that I walk. Bro, I drive a Prius. I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Right.
Because all of the things does not matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm in a place where the love that I have for myself, my family, for what I do is not shown in things. I don't have to show my worth in things.
Keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly. Yeah. Last year I was going to buy a Lambo, but it was for 100% marketing.
Yeah.
100%. But because I couldn't find a way or somebody to operate it when it wasn't marketing and put it on Toro or whatever, because Toro started going down and all of that, I'm like, oh, this is not a good business move. So I'm not going to buy it no more.
Right.
But so it's not that I can't. It's just like, for what?
Right.
And my philosophy, and these are all things you got to, depending on who your mentor is and where you kind of get your financial philosophies from, is very important. My mentors, they don't dress up like that. You wouldn't even know they're 100 millionaires that has sold and bought businesses for over 100 million. You wouldn't know. Never know. They keep it simple. But their philosophy is you let your passive income and your assets pay for your liabilities. And until I get to that 50K passive income coming in from my assets, I told my wife, we ain't buying all of the things. Right. Now we just had a baby and all that. So she's like, bro.
You gotta bend a little bit.
Right? And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go see what we could get. But it's not going to be a Joneses like, oh, they millionaires. Right, it's not going to be that kind of thing. Yep. This is my son in whom I will please, bro. That's what I walk in. I don't feel like I got to dress like everybody. I don't have to like buy the chains. But it's because of my philosophy of money and just, me. So to each their own.
I like that, though.
But it comes from that self-worth stuff, bro. You ain't got to work for it, man. It's already given.
Like that.
That's amazing.
So I want to roll into the mind insurance part and segue into that, man, because when I was reading the bio, that stuck out to me. That's why I looked over at you, because that was the first time I've ever heard a term coined that way. So what drew that concept or that term to your mind or that download, and then, you know, why is it important to have mind insurance for entrepreneurs, for people that are aspiring to do great things out here?
Yeah. So what brought it to my mind, bro, was when we moved from New York to Georgia. This is when in 2020, when my wife and we originally came here to take care of my wife's mom. She had stage 4 leukemia. And so instead of flying from New York to Georgia all the time, I'm like, babe, let's pack up, go take care of your mom. And so that's when I quit my job. I hadn't done a real estate deal yet. I quit my job. I felt like God was saying to do this. Go take care of your mom. We got here 3 months later, she passed.
Damn.
Right? And so at that point in time, I had hired a high performance coach, and I started doing like my morning routines and rituals of like writing down, planning my day. And, you know, I would get up and pray in the morning, and I just had a routine that I did. And the morning that she passed, I was so down, stressed, pissed off, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do nothing, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I heard this voice, which was God, saying, nah, man, go work out. Go do the things. Unwillingly, I did. And I remember working out in my basement crying, like just crying, doing pull-ups, just crying, bro. And after I had done it, and I wrote down my goals for the day and all that type of stuff, it was as if the fog just started to clear from my eyes, and I could see I had purpose for the day. I had an intention for the day, and I was able to be there for my wife. And I wasn't, not that I wasn't sad, but
I was able to function.
I was able to function. And after, when I reflected on it, I'm like, shoot, bro, my routines is like my mind insurance. It protected me from a crisis.
That's good.
And so after that, I'm like, hold on. So you mean if I did this consistently, any crisis that comes up, I'm going to be good and I'll be able to function in the crisis instead of have the crisis get over on me.
You got full coverage.
Yeah, got the coverage. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so after that, because when people started saying to me, bro, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? I couldn't articulate it.
Yeah.
And so I had to really sit down and come up with a framework to be able to help them go from where they are to having their own coverage. And that's why I came up with mind insurance.
Wow.
Okay. You trademarked that check. That's a good one, man.
Yeah,
you should, for sure,
it.
man.
Appreciate it. I have.
Okay. Good.
He said, "Nah, I got that on live."
Good, man. So how did you tackle like your fears, man? Like, did you have fears? And if you did, what were some of those fears? How did you tackle them? I mean, we all experience fears, man. I'm dealing with some now that, you know, I'm working through. I'm allowing my mind insurance to fully cover that. But for you, man, like how did you tackle those? And then, you know, what are some good helpful tips to manage the uncertainties that we deal with as entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis?
So I'll say that my fears are typically covered in my coverage, my mind insurance coverage. Yep. And I'll just break down a quick framework for mind insurance. And it all starts with purpose. That's the first thing, because when you know exactly where you're going and you're fearful of something, but you know you're supposed to be there, you come up with a way to do it anyway, right? So it's almost like if you have a kid, your kid is sick, your car is broken down, you're going to find a way to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't care if you got to get on my back, we going. That's like purpose to me, right? So you got that clear direction as to where you're going. The next thing you need is a vision. The Bible says without a vision, the people shall perish. And I like to use a different translation of that verse where it says, where there's no vision, the people cast off restraint. And what that means is restraint is you have no control. Right? And to cast off means to give up. So without knowing where you're going and having that vision, you give up control. And so when you don't have a vision beyond anything, the people control you. And so the people who just have a 9 to 5 and just do the thing, get the white picket fence, all that type of stuff, they're being controlled. They cast off restraint because they have no vision for themselves beyond what they've been told.
It's powerful.
Right?
That is powerful.
And so the vision is the first part of being able to have a mind insurance, to be able to go beyond circumstances, beyond the crisis that's gonna happen. It's inevitable. It's gonna happen. It starts with the vision, because the vision allows you to see beyond what your eyes see.
Got you.
Right? So that's the first thing. And the example I like to give is, like, imagine going into a car dealership. You're buying a brand new 2025 BMW M5, right? You need insurance on this car. So when you call Geico, the person on the other line is going to say, hey, how you doing, Olu? Like, what type of car are you buying? And you say, hey, BMW. Oh, what type? M5. What color? Space gray. How many miles are you going to drive? And they ask you this long list of questions that's pretty annoying, right? It's probably the longest part to the entire process before they could tell you about your premium. So now, based on your use case, which is the vision, that detail to the VIN number, vision, right? Then they tell you the premium for that car. And so if your vision is in detail and you have it written down, now you got to ask yourself, am I willing to pay the price? Am I willing to pay the premium for executing on that vision? A lot of people, they start the journey. It's like buying the car without coverage, and then Geico calls you and say, hey, you got that Lambo, $5,000 a month. And you're like, I'm not wanting to pay that or willing to pay that. So now you got to trade in the car to get a car that you could actually afford. And so when you have a detailed vision, you know kind of like where you're going, and you understand, am I willing to pay the premium for my vision? So the second step is understanding your premiums, right? And your premium is typically going to be a coach. You need a coach because there's a knowledge gap from your current location to the destination that you want to get into. So you need a coach. Another part of the premium is your community. You need a community of people to be able to be like, man, I'm getting beat up. I don't know what to do, and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like the last part of the premium is, what am I willing to stop doing? Am I willing to give up my current habits to be the person that I want to be, right? And after that, it's the deductibles. And so the third part is paying your daily deductibles. The daily deductibles are the habits and the things that you need to do every single day, because success is not owned, it's rented. And rent is due every day.
Here's your camera. Say that one more time. That was a bar.
Success is not owned, it's rented. And rent is due every single day. And that's your daily deductibles. Because if you don't pay that rent, you're going to get evicted. If you don't pay that rent, your premium is going to lapse. And your mine insurance, you're not going to have coverage. And so when a crisis happens and you didn't pay your coverage, you get depressed. You get imposter syndrome. You lose confidence and you start retreating on your goals. And so by having this routine that you're able to do every single day, that renews you, renews your belief, renews your commitment, just renews everything, then you're covered, man.
Man, I hope y'all paid attention, man.
That
I
was
really
crazy
wrote down some stuff there, bro.
I got a question about how real estate works into your purpose. Like, I understand how you started your real estate journey, but how does that sustain what your purpose is?
It don't.
That's the long and the short, right?
It's an asset that helps for cash flow.
Sure.
I help primarily real estate investors. Other than that,
It's a
It
means
don't.
to an end.
It's a means to an end, bro. You know what I mean? And it's something that I got really good at. It's a skill that I got, and I'm really good at that, raising capital and all of the things. And people try to pull me down the rabbit hole of doing a lot more of it. And I'm like,
I don't have to.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Not even that I don't have to. It's like, I don't want to. Because it doesn't really help me fulfill my purpose.
Gotcha.
Now, there are ways that I could strategically do it where my wife and I, we wanted to have a home where people who had cancer could come and get the type of treatment that they need because of what we've been through.
Gotcha.
Right? And so we started a nonprofit and we started buying homes to do it, but the time was too close and it was a little still too sensitive. And so now what we do at our nonprofit is we help fund people who need funding for their treatments and stuff like that. So nice. we give up a percentage of our business to do that through our nonprofit. But that's the only kind of use case that like I was gonna start doing like sober living homes and all that type of stuff, bro. I went to a meetup with like real sober living investors, and this one lady was like, "Yo, where you getting your properties at?" I'm like, "In Warner Robins." She's like, "Oh my God, I used to do some crazy coke in Warner Robins."
Wow, that was a different
bro.
Twist.
I took the phone. I called my wife. I'm like, we ain't doing this. I'm like, we not doing this. I'm like, because these people are doing this for a real reason. They have overcome something and they're serving the people to help them overcome something. When the issues come up, when am I willing to pay the price?
Right.
I'm not. No, I'm gonna quit. Because somebody overdosed because they had a relapse in my house. I'm gonna be like, this too much.
Yeah.
I can't relate. I can't. I'm like, we shutting that down. We ain't doing it. We never did it. And that's when I was like, yeah, we ain't fixing to do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are ways to be purposeful in your real estate endeavors. The way that I do it is just help real estate investors discover their purpose so they could do real estate on purpose.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. It's incredible, bro. You went from 1 to 21 properties in 1 year. That's what I'm striving towards. I know Scott, he's big in the acquisitions and acquiring some property. So I know you got a ton of gems, to drop here on this. And I do want to touch on that. And with that, can you walk us through just some of the strategies that you used to, one, use the creative financing that you did, and then two, 100% OPM? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, bro. To me, it's pretty easy.
Okay.
To me, it's pretty easy. I'm gonna give y'all all the game right now.
Yeah.
And it's probably easier for me because as a cybersecurity engineer, I have to reverse engineer things a lot to strategize as to how we're gonna protect this law firm that I used to work for. So I stepped back and I just started pulling data. And some of the data that I wanted to pull was, where was a growing city, right? It was growing, that had the properties wasn't too expensive, but the cash flow was still around that $1,200, that rental income, right? That would still allow me to make $500 a month or $400 a month, something around that. Because at that point, I was doing long-term rentals, right? At that point, so the data took me to Warner Robins. Never been to Warner Robins, never anything. But the data, I believe the data. I was a data guy. So I'm like, all right, cool. So that's where we got our portfolio. Okay. But the type of sellers that I went after was, I'm like, okay, I know creative financing really well. I don't have money. Matter of fact, I'm in debt and I need these properties. So I need to buy my properties, creative financing, seller finance, subject to like anything that they're willing to carry a note for me. So I pulled a list with owners or sellers who had more than 4 properties. They had it for over 10 years. So why more than 4 properties? I'm going to tell you my thought process behind it. More than 4 properties because that means that they're a true investor, right? I don't want to speak to anyone who became a real estate investor because they moved and they just never sold a home. that means
skin in the game.
Exactly. I don't want to have to convince you of my strategy.
Right.
Right. I don't want to sell you. Right. So the person who had more than 4 properties, they probably are in the game a little bit longer. The 10 years, they would have heard things. They would have been pitched owner finance or subject to or lease option or something before. It wouldn't be the first time they're hearing it. So it would be an easier conversation to have. And in my head, it's like, once I get the first property, they already have 3, 4, and 5. And once I build trust and rapport, then I'll be able to buy their other properties.
Gotcha.
So that was in my brain, and it was true. And so when I started, I connected with my first seller. She, once we got on the contract, by the way, she gave us a 4-plex and another house, 5,000 down. Wow. Crazy. But it's because of the rapport I built with her, right? I don't sell myself as a big corporation business. It's always my wife and I. Always my wife and I. And so this humble guy trying to do something for his kids and his wife, and so with that, she wanted to help me. And so she was like, hey, these 5 properties, 5,000 down. So once I started making payments to her, now she had like 40 properties in Warner Robins. Once I started paying her, I asked her, I'm like, hey, what's your most troublesome property? Because I used to wholesale too. She told me it's this property that had a foundation crack, da-da-da-da-da. Like, let me help you sell it. She's like, oh, what do you want for it? Nothing. You're going to help me for no reason?
Wow.
Yeah. Like, you helped me.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I'm providing more value to her, sold her property to one of my buyers in Warner Robins. Guess who she loves? Me.
Yeah.
Guess what she starts doing? Selling me more properties.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? So she sold me like about 8 properties. Then found another one like her. Wow. He sold me 4. Like, I bought my entire portfolio from like 5 people.
Hey.
But it's because of the thought.
Exactly.
It's like, build a relationship. Understand, could they perform? Do they have the assets for me to buy? If they do, once I get in, let me just provide crazy value. Bro, I live in Atlanta. I was bringing, I used to go to these warehouses and stuff out here for my material.
Right.
I would take flooring for her. Be like, hey, I'm about to make a stop. You need flooring? Oh my God, you're a saint. Because it's super cheap at those places. I'll drive it down to her. I just took 2 hours to bring her flooring. And she just appreciated the hell out of that. And people in Middle Georgia, bro, they're way nicer. Yeah. They're calmer. They're more friendly and all of that. So that I just worked the relationship strategy.
Bring value
bro.
to those situations.
Bring value, bro.
Relationship building, y'all.
Networking.
Networking builds that net worth. And that's real.
That's real, man.
So y'all gotta make sure y'all, you building relationships, man. Genuine relationships. Be intentional and come from a great place, man. Sounds like Kes came from a great place and he was just, honored and gifted, some of these properties that it sounds like he wouldn't even think he would get in that moment. So the key and the benefit of building a relationship, man, it could take you to some wonderful places, man. So that's what's up, man. I'm gonna have to take a page out of that for sure.
I'm taking all the pages.
Everybody should do it.
So knowing that, financial freedom is just one sector of your story. You did mention that you live on purpose. Can you dive into that a little bit about what that means
and how you find your purpose
and how? Yeah.
So me living on purpose just simply means doing the thing that I believe God called me on this planet to do, which at this point, I like to call it the foundation method. And the foundation method, and you guys know the Burj Khalifa building?
No, I'm not familiar.
So the Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world, and it's in Dubai. Okay. Right? It's like 2,716 feet tall. Really tall, right? And what's interesting about the Burj Khalifa is they built it in 5 years. Now, the other part to that is that they took one of those 5 years to build the foundation. And the foundation, that's 20% of the time on the foundation. The foundation is the equivalent of a 15-story foot building. That's how deep it goes. The reason why is because of how tall
it's gotta be.
they got to go. And when I understood that concept, I'm like, well, we're all trying to build these skyscrapers. We're all trying to get this generational wealth. What are the foundation things that we need in our life to be secure and stable with so that we could go high? Because as soon as you start growing wealth, they say more money, more problems. Could your foundation support it? Right? And so the 4 pillars of that foundation, we've already talked about one, which is mind, your mind insurance, right? The next is spirituality. Spirituality, I like to craft as your purpose, understanding your core values, understanding a lot about you and why you're here and having that connection to God. The third is your marriage and relationships. Bro, you trying to build and your relationship is rocky, that whole thing coming down, or at least get cut in half. At least.
Feel that.
Right? So that's a very core pillar of that foundation. And the next is your health and fitness. Ask Steve Jobs. He built, when he died, the company was 650 million. He never even got to see it go to trillion. 650 billion, sorry. He never seen it get to a trillion. Now I think it's like 4 trillion now. He didn't get to see it. Why? Because of his health. And so if any one of those things, those pillars crumble, you coming down. That's
true.
That's coming down. And so my purpose is helping entrepreneurs maintain their foundation while they build that wealth.
That's good. That's good. And it's needed.
Man,
it's needed.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it is.
And let me stand by saying this. The reason why is because I failed at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I failed at it. The reason why I got a divorce the first time is because I failed at my foundation. That marriage piece, I didn't focus on it. I continued building and...
You let your foundation
Exactly.
crumble,
I let the foundation crumble. And so I'm not saying it's because I just this great concept or whatever. Man, this is solely because of my screw-ups. And the things that I do to reinforce my marriage now, the things that I do for my health, the things that I do for my spirituality, the things that I do for my mindset, I realize if any one of those things faltered, bro. And so that's kind of what I lean into in helping.
It's lessons behind trials and tribulations, y'all.
It's probably our best episode.
It's lessons behind that. So while we wrap up, man, this has been one of our best episodes, man. Thank you, Keston.
Appreciate that.
And we didn't even really get to unpack, I feel like, half of it.
Each one of them got frameworks and a whole, each one of them, you know? So, yeah, man.
But before we wrap up, man, the last piece of advice you would give to our people out there who, you know, are inspiring or looking to plunge into entrepreneurship from a 9 to 5, what would be that piece of advice you would give them?
The piece of advice I would give anyone that is coming from that 9 to 5 world and you're getting into entrepreneurship is this. I don't even know where this quote saying or whatever came from, but it comes to mind from that question that Olu asked. And it's, you are born like you're looking like your parents, but you die looking like your decisions. And every single one of you have the ability to change your life based on the decisions that you make. You have the information. Are you willing to not be selfish to stay the way that you are? There's some people waiting on you to transform your life. Your family is waiting on you. You have the information. Now you got to execute, but you got to stop being selfish to become the person that you need to become to have that transformation. Are you going to do it?
That's amazing.
That's a good one, man.
Where can our people find you, man?
Yeah.
Keston on Purpose on Instagram. That's it. Catch some purpose. That's the best way to tap in.
Straight to the point.
And make
Yes,
sure you
sir.
tap in with any programs, anything that people can sign up for. I know, like you said, you do the, you're transforming, business owners and entrepreneurs. So is there any program, anything people can tap in with you on?
Yeah, man. I'm actually starting a new cohort tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Beautiful.
starting a new cohort.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
It's a 6-week program of my high performance elite. So it's a small group of entrepreneurs. And people that I've worked with in the past, people who's done some really incredible things, man. This one young lady, she went from 0 doors, stressed out, now has 67 midterm rentals in 8 months.
Wow.
What?
In
That's
8
crazy.
months.
That's doing
Y'all
numbers
better
for
tap
sure.
in, man.
Like I got some crazy testimonials from
Yeah.
people. Once you discover your purpose, bro, it's just a
It's
different
over.
game.
Yeah.
It's a different game you play. So
That's amazing.
yeah, man, I got different programs, but I would want to give you the one that matters the best for you. I like tailor fitting my programs to people. I don't like to just because I want real results.
Facts.
So
That's good stuff.
once you hit me up, we'll be able to give you the one that matters more to you.
There you go. Well, again, man, Keston, we appreciate you for, taking the time out of your schedule, man, to come be here with us and share this wonderful information, man. Drop these gems, these nuggets. Again, I hope y'all brought y'all pen and pad on this one because this was the one that you really needed to bring that pen and pad to.
Yes, sir.
And without, anything further, man, make sure y'all check us out Mondays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe if you like what you heard. Peace out, y'all. There's another episode of Doing Numbers.
Peace.
Thanks, Cass.